How long have you been at this school? How many times have you walked in the front door, through the halls, in and out of the classrooms? J.W. Long Elementary School. Have you ever wondered how our school got that name, or who J.W. Long was? We started talking about him on Career Day last fall, but did not have a lot of information. Now we have a better idea about the man our school is named after. Mr. J.W. Long was born on February 4, 1885 in Harrison County. Today would have been his 136th birthday, if he were still alive. His parents were E.S. and Harriet Long, and they were farmers born before the Civil War. J.W.'s family came to Texas in 1846, a year after Texas became the 28th state in the United States. J.W.'s parents lived in Hallsville, a small town outside Marshall, Texas, which is located in Harrison County, a little east of Terrell. J.W. stood for John Wesley, but he went by J.W. because when he was alive, people were treated differently based on the color of their skin. African American men often went by their initials instead of their name, to avoid being disrespected and addressed like a child. For most of his life, his children did not even know what the J.W. stood for. J.W. loved baseball and classical Greek and Latin languages. J.W.'s parents thought education was very important, and this is something J.W. believed as well. J.W. Long graduated from Bishop College on May 13, 1908, having completed the normal course of the academic department. This was a set of classes required in Texas to become a teacher. Here we can see his college diploma. After graduation, he moved to Longview, Texas to begin teaching. While he was teaching, he lived with the Johnson family. One of the daughters in the family J.W. stayed with was Nadie Johnson. In 1914, he married Nadie Johnson. J.W. got a call from W.H. Burnett asking him to come teach at Burnett School in Terrell, Texas. J.W. and Nadie moved to Terrell in 1915 and spent the rest of their lives building their family and putting down roots here. He eventually began teaching at Burnett High School, the school for African American children in Terrell, in 1915. At the time, this school had 4 rooms and could hold up to 250 students. Just to give you a better idea of how many that was, our school can hold nearly 800 students. In these pictures, you can see what Burnett would have looked like when J.W. Long was there and what it looks like today. It is still used as a school building, and it is now called W.H. Burnett Elementary School. The school offered all grade levels, 1st grade through 12th. He taught there and later became the school's first elementary principal. He retired from education in 1955. He was known for being a great math teacher and for helping students learn how to read, write, and spell. J.W. and Nadie had 6 children: Wendell, Emerson, Doris, Helen, Mildred, and Nora B. Wendell and Nora both grew up to be principals, Wendell in Dallas Independent School District and Nora in Seattle, Washington. J.W. later returned to Bishop College. We know from a letter signed the college president, Joseph J. Rhodes, that J.W. completed a bachelor's degree, graduating on August 12, 1949. Here we have a tax exemption registration card dated 1918 that shows J.W. Long's full name and address. These are copies of the 1930 and 1940 census records. The census is where the United States records everyone who lives here every 10 years and keeps those records. This way we can look up records to find out where someone lived a long time ago. This shows us things such as who lived in the house, the jobs people had, and what they looked like. Here is a copy of the same record, a little bit easier to see. You can see within these 10 years when his older kids were living at home and when they had moved out. There was an article published on January 3, 2020 on the Crosscut website by Glenn Nelson talking about J.W.'s daughter Mildred McHenry. In the article, J.W. is quoted as often saying, quote, "Get educated and then get out of town." End quote. He was passionate about education and wanted every opportunity for his children. He was encouraging them to take ownership of their education and their future and to follow their dreams. When he lived in Terrell, it was a different time. J.W. never saw a Terrell like we have now, where students of all races can sit in the same classrooms. J.W. Long died on November 29, 1967, and desegregation in Terrell happened in 1969. J.W. and Nadie E. Long lived here in Terrell for most of their lives. They built a life here and spent their time here on earth giving others something that nobody else could take away, an education. In the world they knew, where people were not treated equally or given equal opportunities, this was a powerful gift. Just as J.W.'s parents instilled in him a love for education, he instilled that in his children and grandchildren as well. Some of his family spread out to other parts of the country, such as Seattle, Washington, and others have remained in this area. J.W.'s oldest son, Wendell, lived here in the Dallas area his whole life. As mentioned before, Wendell was a principal in Dallas ISD, and his career in education spanned more than 40 years. Wendell went to school in Terrell and then went on to attend college at Bishop College, just like his dad. Later in life, once he was retired, Wendell set up a college scholarship program at his church. Wendell passed away in 2006 at 90 years of age. One of his daughters, Janet Long, has given us a great deal of information on her grandfather, J.W. Long. Janet knew her grandfather until he passed away during her freshman year of college. She has fond memories of J.W., describing him as respected, smart, kind, outspoken, and able to connect with people. Here is Janet to describe her grandfather in her own words.
I have fond memories of my grandfather, J.W. Long. He was a kind and intelligent man who set high standards for himself and expected the same of others. He listened well and offered advice sparingly, making it all the more impactful. My grandfather and grandmother were big influencers in my early life. I continue on in the Long tradition, which is to be a generous and just contributor in my family and community. I thank the Terrell Independent School District family for honoring my grandfather's life and his 4-decade-plus career as a teacher and principal.
Several people in the community knew Mr. Long or have heard stories about him. One staff member in our building lived next door to J.W. when she was a little girl. She remembers that he was a kind but serious man, dedicated to education. Our school was built, opened, and dedicated to J.W. Long in 2003. On May 21, 2003, when the Terrell Tribune announced the names of the two schools, Long Elementary and Furlow Middle, which opened the summer of 2003, they printed this in the accompanying article. J.W. Long served alongside William H. Burnett for many years as a teacher and elementary school principal in the early 1900s for students attending classes in South Terrell. At a time when so-called colored schools in Terrell suffered from separate and unequal resources, Long was one of the greatest assets and resources for education in Terrell, NAME committee members said. Look, we can see Janet Long in the picture from the Terrell Tribune in 2003. She was here when the school was opened and dedicated to her grandfather. He was a passionate educator who loved teaching students. What would J.W. think if he could see our school today? Write a letter to J.W. Long and tell him about our school, or make him a birthday card with a drawing of our school. And as you sit in your classrooms and walk through these hallways, think about the man whose name is on our school building. Think about how much he loved education and make him proud by carrying on that dedication to learning every day.